Oh god, I'm here early. Where... Xander? Oh man, he's gone. That is so weird. He was supposed to... Okay, fine. Alright, well, okay. I can just go wait for him and... Oh, jeez! What? Whose blood is this? This is all over the floor. This is carpet. Oh my... Oh. Tastes like Xander's blood, actually. That is so weird. Xander! Huh. Well, alright, I guess nobody's here yet. I guess I'll just wait for everybody to show up, because I'm the only one who ever shows up on time for anything, and I don't leave my blood all over the floor.
Hi, Nathan.
Hey! I didn't know you were here yet.
No, I was just hiding in the corner, just being weird.
Oh, I wondered what you were... Okay. I saw, a menacing silhouette in the corner, but I figured it was none of my business.
No, that's me. I'm taking a menacing silhouette class right now, and I have to get in a certain number of hours of practice every day before I can get my certification.
Gotcha. Do I need to sign something for you then?
Actually, yeah, I've actually got a piece of paper for you to sign after we're done recording, if that's okay. You need to grade me on 1 to 5 of, mildly suspicious to downright terrifying. So,
Gotcha.
Be honest, but be flattering.
Okay, well, all right. I'll hold on to that then.
All right.
And I'll do that afterward.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to help out. Higher education is very important to me.
I always thought so I figured you'd be a good person to test this out on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm always glad to help out. Apparently some people are not, though. Have you seen Xander?
I haven't. I don't know where he went.
That's really weird. He must have been here because he left all of his blood on the carpet, as far as I can tell. This looks
is that what that is?
It's somebody's blood, and it tastes like his, so I'm assuming.
Oh, okay.
How much blood can the human body contain? Because this looks like that amount of blood.
Well, it's 10 or 11 pints, and then, if you lose 4 pints of that blood, then you exsanguinate, and your heart doesn't have enough blood pressure to keep pumping.
Huh.
So, this looks like about 5 or 6 pints. So, whoever's blood this is, and you said it tastes like Xander's, but they're probably dead.
Oh, shit. Well... co-hosts never last that long anyway. But
that's true. I feel like the studio probably goes through a lot.
I am gonna have to get another Xander, and that is such a pain in the ass. You would not believe what I had to go through to get the last one.
Well, I know that last time you had to get a new Xander, you had to ask me to use my clone machine, and it's never smelled right since then.
Well, I appreciate your help with that, because I know I was imposing a little bit, and I do apologize. I just, I had to get a new co-host to get this thing done, and I hadn't invited you onto the show at that point, so it would have felt weird to be like, well, Xander's dead, do you want to be my new co-host?
That's true. So I don't mind donating my my cloning machine for a good cause, so I'm all right with that.
I do appreciate that. And you are a co-host now, so it all works out, I suppose.
Yay!
Yeah.
So do you just want to do this thing with just the two of us, and then if Xander suddenly shows up out of the blue, we're good, or if he doesn't show up, then we'll just assume he's dead?
Yeah, that's fine. That seems like the normal thing to do in this situation. If you think somebody's dead and you find all their blood, I think you wait 4 hours for them to show up, and if they don't, you call the police?
I usually go with 48 hours just in case, because you never know. Because I was doing the whole menacing silhouette case study, so he might be doing a faking his own death study. But we can never be too sure. Xander never really tells us his plans until the moment of. So.
Well, and what I heard too is if you think somebody is dead, then you should always wait 24 hours or 48 hours before you call the cops, because if they're not dead when you call the cops, they get really mad at you.
It's true.
Yeah, and I don't want the police mad at me, so I should just wait until I'm sure Xander is dead, and then I'll call them and be like, hey, I think my friend got murdered.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Or not murdered. Maybe his blood just fell out of him. Is that a thing?
Sometimes. It's rare, but, if Xander came down with a random case of, stigmata or something like that, then that might happen.
Or in an anime when you see, someone who's really pretty and all your blood comes out your nose.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe,
yeah, that hasn't happened to me in 10 years.
You know what? He was probably just looking at porn on his phone or something, and all his blood came out his nose, and he's dead now. And if that's the case, then that serves him right.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
He was slain by his own debaucherous lifestyle. Why am I not surprised?
Well, he is the deviant one.
Yeah, now that he's dead, we don't have to do that joke anymore, actually. That makes me happy.
The deviant one, devious one. I feel like I should be something else that starts with a D, but I'm not quite sure what it would be.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. Devious would work really well for you, too. And then, like, there's others that, like delinquent, or I don't know. Like, there's so many words that start with D, but I don't know if any of them actually work for this.
I'll think of one.
Whatever.
All right.
Who cares? All right. Let's just do like a normal shallow cast then.
That sounds good to me. I'm sure Xander's fine.
Yeah, he's probably fine. I mean, if he was dying, he would probably text me and tell me.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. So.
You used to be MacGyver, McGadget, McGimmick. Now you're Mr. McUseless. Dear God. Stuck on a glacier with MacGyver!
I already know what you're going to say.
You have a go.
But from a strictly humanitarian point of view, what?
Hey, welcome back to Shallowcast, the only podcast on the internet.
The only...
Hosted by 3 people.
Well...
Whose names are Xander, Hannah, and Nafan. Does that meet with your standards?
It does meet with my standards. That's a little bit more accurate.
I'm just trying to find a new slogan.
Well, the only podcast on the internet seems a little braggy.
Okay, the best podcast ever created by humans.
I'm okay with that one.
Okay, cool. That's good then.
All right, best podcast ever created by humans. Welcome to Shallowcast.
I am Nathan Soros.
And I am Black Hole Girl, Hannah. Hello.
So, you and I were originally, like, what was it now? A week ago, we went and saw How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Yes, and it was the best movie ever.
Fantastic. It wasn't Pacific Rim, so it wasn't the best movie ever, but it was...
Well, okay, that's fair enough.
But no, it was very good. And we were going to do just like a review of that, but so much time has passed between our viewing of it and this recording that I think we can, we're still going to talk about it, of course, but like an episode about sequels in general seems kind of apropos, as it were, because we've been watching a lot of sequels to things lately.
We have. I think over the last week, I've introduced you to Tron and Tron Legacy. I started making you watch Legend of Korra, which is, I guess, technically a sequel sequel series.
Yeah, to Avatar: The Last Airbender.
What else have we done?
And I watched, independently, I watched Rio 2, which was a sequel to that Blue Sky Animation CGI movie that's like, it's about a parrot and he thinks he's the last of his kind, and it turns out he's not, and there's a girl parrot. And then they have to become a couple, but he's an awkward bird because he's been a pet his whole life and she's from a jungle. But then at the end of the movie, they get together. And I watched the sequel to that, and it was not very good.
Oh, yeah. All right. I've never seen either Rio or Rio 2, so you're going to be doing all the talking.
That's okay.
On that one.
My Rio 2 points are very brief, and they actually tie into my How to Train Your Dragon 2 points. So I can cover those at the same time.
Oh, that's very efficient.
I figured it out a while ago after watching Rio 2. Like that same night, I was like, oh, wait, I know what I can do. And I took notes. So it worked out perfectly, actually.
Yeah, I should have taken notes about How to Train Your Dragon, because most of the points I wanted to come up with, I only kind of vaguely remember, so I'm just going to wing it.
Well, you have kind of a photographic memory anyway, but also for audio. You have a video memory, so I'm assuming that you can just that you'll remember stuff I won't remember about it. So,
let's hope.
Let's find out, I guess. Let's talk about How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Sweet.
In theaters nationwide.
So for those of you who don't know, How to Train Your Dragon 2 was released last weekend as of this recording. So it's been about 8 or 9 days since we went to see it in the theaters for the premiere. And opening it on Father's Day weekend might not have been their best choice, but as far as the movie itself went, I thought it was a stellar sequel. You were mentioning before how you've got certain issues with sequels and that all sequels tend to repeat. And you were mentioning that this one actually did not touch on many of those.
And we will have like with the Godzilla review, I think we can do like 5 minutes for spoiler talk toward the end. If you want, because I think there is a spoilery thing we should probably address. We would be remiss if we didn't bring that up in our discussion.
I agree.
But, How to Train Your Dragon 2 was actually a fantastic sequel. You and I have both seen the first one. You've seen it like 9 times, and I've only seen it the once.
I've seen it probably like an uncomfortable amount of times for someone who's in their 20s watching a children's movie.
I think everyone on the internet can say that about some movie or other.
Good point.
Honestly, it's surprising to me you haven't watched the TV show, considering how much you love the movie.
I just keep forgetting the TV show exists, and therefore keep forgetting to look it up and binge watch it. So
apparently the movie picks up right where the TV show left off. It doesn't mention any of the villains in the show, and certain characters who had dragons in the show and didn't have them after the show ended, they have new dragons now, like Hiccup's dad, Stoic. His dragon in the movie, Skullcrusher, is not the dragon he had for a few episodes of the TV series. Like, he had that dragon, and then he had to let that dragon go, and then he got a new one for the movie.
Well, Skullcrusher is an excellent name for a dragon, no matter what.
It's a very Viking-appropriate name. And it's also really cool dragon design. The designs in How to Train Your Dragon 2 were phenomenal.
I agree. They started off with an excellent selection of dragon designs, even in the first one, and I know they expanded on that in their their specials and the TV show and things like that. And then just seeing what they came up with for How to Train Your Dragon 2 was just phenomenal to me. I mean, just the sheer amount of variation that they had in their dragon designs was really, really neat to see. Like, there were the water dragons, and then they had the timberjacks, and then they had just so many. The freaking Bewilderbeast was just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it's really amusing from my, amateur zoologist / cryptozoologist standpoint to see all these dragons they've invented to fill the specific ecological niches of real life creatures. Like, instead of having whales for the most part, we've got, massive underwater dragons. And there aren't really birds around that we see a lot of, but we see the little cat-sized terrible terror dragons. And we see sheep and fish because there have to be prey animals for the dragons. But other than that, it's a pretty dragon-heavy ecosystem, it seems like.
It is very dragon heavy. I mean, dragons tend to fill all of the normal predator animal roles in this little archipelago that these people live in.
It's just, I really love the world building that went into, this is the way that dragons operate, and these dragons fill this niche, and these dragons fill this niche, and honestly, I'm continually impressed by the world building and How to Train Your Dragon. That the franchise is just really solid and really impressive. I love that about the franchise so much.
I agree. They've put a lot of thought and effort and blood and sweat and tears into this, and it really shines through in pretty much every single character design and every single creature design that you encounter through the movie. So, and it's very interesting to me because, going to movies with me, how I find it very difficult to concentrate on movies that have bad science in them. When it comes to dragons in particular, I actually made a choice a while back to just assume that dragons are magical, even if they don't seem to have any magical abilities inherent in whatever setting that they're in, because there's no physical way that the way dragons are shaped that those wings of that size could actually support
their wings
them.
would have to be 9 times bigger on every single dragon for them to even be off the ground to glide, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, things like the Timberjack, those wings are proportional enough. But as far as, the Night Fury, or God forbid, the frickin' Gronkles, there's no way those things
I love
it's worse than Bumblebees.
Yeah, Gronkles are, for people who don't know all the dragon names, because we're throwing them out like I throw Pokemon names out, the Gronkles they're like winged hippos, basically. They're big, fat, heavy dragons with huge club-like tails and little tiny cartoon-type wings.
Yeah, they look like bumblebees, but more cartoonish. It's
they're like
while they're very entertaining, they're also very impossible as far as creatures.
Well, and Gobber's dragon, Grump, who is related to the Grunkle and is just big and fat and is able to fly while sleeping because all they do is sleep. Stuff like that I know has no basis in real life, but is super cute and really entertaining.
They all have their little quirks. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's really fun seeing the creativity that goes into just every single dragon, even if it's just a background dragon for one scene. They're gonna look really unique, and none of the dragons look the same, which I really appreciate.
It's true. Even among the same species, it's not just a copy-paste of a particular dragon design. They've all got different color schemes. They've all got different, defining features. You can identify one particular dragon out of the rest of the dragons of his species fairly easily. And that's definitely point towards the animators in these movies, that I really do appreciate the amount of detail that they've put in.
Yeah, it's really interesting to compare this to, not to take a cheap shot here, but to compare it to something like Frozen, where there's not really a lot of distinguishing features among the characters. Like the crowd shots in Frozen really make it clear that the animators just didn't care as much. And it's weird that they would do this in a Disney project, but all the female characters in Frozen look pretty much identical. All the crowd shots you can point out in any crowd shot all the people that their designs are basically just cut and pasted, and we'll take this 3D model and put it over here, and we'll take this 3D model and put it there, and spread them out through the crowd to fill the crowd shots up a little bit.
And a lot of times, from what I noticed, because I haven't actually seen the movie in its entirety, but I've looked up little clips here and there, and from what I've noticed about those crowd shots, even those copy-paste characters, they don't even bother to change the color scheme, which I find incredibly lazy.
There's like 4 or 5 people in one shot I've seen where it's like the, same woman, same dress, same hairstyle, everything's the same color. And they just kind of pepper them through the audience to pad it out a little bit more. And it's weird going from a Disney movie like Wreck-It Ralph, where all the characters were totally unique, to something like Frozen, where, with the exception of, 6 people, everyone in the kingdom looks exactly the same.
Weird. But, it's very Stepford Wives.
Actually. I think most Disney products have a Stepford Wives undercurrent to them, actually.
That's mildly disturbing.
But How to Train Your Dragon 2 is a pretty fantastic movie. I actually would go as far as to say it's a sequel that's better than the original film.
I would actually agree with that. And you know how much I loved the original How to Train Your Dragon.
You talk about How to Train Your Dragon the way I talk about Godzilla, actually.
It's a little scary. It makes people look at me funny when I bring it up at dinner conversations.
It makes me feel good because at the end of the day, you and I both have a strong affinity for animals of the giant reptile persuasion. And
That's true. I hadn't thought about it.
I'm just glad that we have that in common. It makes me feel like a little less of a freakish weirdo to know that you are also a freakish weirdo.
Yay, freakish weirdos.
So, it was interesting watching the development of How to Train Your Dragon 2 because the screenwriter and the director made some repeated comparisons to Empire Strikes Back, actually, as far as the tone they wanted the film to take and the role they wanted it to play as the second part of a trilogy that begins to open up this wider world for the characters. And I think that's a hell of an ambitious thing to say, but they actually pulled it off.
They did. And when they mentioned that, I was incredibly worried about the events that might take place in this movie as a result of that.
We've already had a protagonist lose a limb, so...
Yeah, the Hiccup's already lost a limb in the first movie, and I was kind of worried they would make somebody lose another limb of some sort to a parent figure, and thankfully that actually did not happen. So I was very relieved, actually, to see that.
There were, things with parent figures did happen in How to Train Your Dragon 2. Very early on in the promotion process for the film, they spoiled what the writers had wanted to be a huge reveal. The very first trailer that ever aired for How to Train Your Dragon 2, it was probably the second trailer, because the first one was just Hiccup and Toothless flying and their aerial stunts.
That's right. It was the second. It was the first actual trailer versus just the teaser.
That's right. That's the terminology I was looking for. But the first actual trailer spoils the fact that the mysterious dragon rider Hiccup runs into a couple times is actually his long-lost mother. And that was supposed to be a major plot twist and a huge big reveal that was supposed to be a secret. And then when the marketers put the trailer together, they tossed that in there, the very first, one of the second or third clip in the trailer.
Which, honestly, I think, I can see their reasoning behind it, because it's definitely going to draw a large audience, but at the same time, I felt like going into the movie without that knowledge would have made that reveal that much more poignant, and I'm kind of bummed that they missed out.
Yeah, I actually was thinking about that as that scene happened. I was like, oh man, this would be so much better if I didn't already know what was happening here.
Right? Because that entire scene where Hiccup and Toothless are just flying through the clouds, and then Cloud Jumper, who is the dragon that Hiccup's mother rides, just kind of lurks through the clouds. It's a very Jaws-esque scene where you just see one of his ridges just protruding through the clouds, and then go back down, and then you know. Hiccup and Toothless are suddenly, mildly terrified, and so they're very slowly diving below the clouds to see if they can track this other dragon and its rider, which they've never encountered. And then the rider is completely disguised from head to toe and simply standing on this dragon's back,
staring,
with no saddle, no any sort of harness or any sort of trappings that the riders of Berk actually use to ride their dragons. And so the absolute skill that this writer possesses and the complete mysterious identity would have been so much more on point if we hadn't had that spoiler.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was bummed about, because I feel like that experience would have been a lot more fun to be like, holy shit, who is this? And then, oh my god, it's his mom.
It would have been amazing. And even as everything was, spoiled to the nth degree in the fact that, Hiccup found his mother and she's an amazing, dragon trainer and all of this, I still appreciate the way they managed to go with the story, and they still managed to put a lot of surprising things in there, which was really, really nice.
No, they really upped the ante from the first film. They expand upon the world that it takes place in more. You get to see dragons and Vikings living together as if this has been their way of life for centuries. And I'm guessing that's because we haven't seen the TV series and we haven't watched them try to work that out. I'm assuming that would be the point of the show.
Probably. I'm going to make that assumption. Like, there's probably a lot of weird little, kinks that had to get worked out with a sudden, cooperation with these creatures that we've been trying to kill for, generation upon generation.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, the TV series is going to emphasize that coexistence more than the movie did. Because the movie just jumps you right into, 6 years later?
5 years later, because Hiccup is 20.
Yeah, okay.
So I believe it's 5 years later.
Yeah, so it's 5 years later, but for the voice actors and the people writing these characters, this is just the next step in the franchise in their writing process, because they've been doing the TV series and now they're doing another movie, and then I guess they'll go back to the series and the next movie is in 2016.
Right, and so what they've been doing is they've been acting their characters alongside each other for years now, and so diving right back into this movie wasn't really diving back in, it was just another day at work. They've grown and developed alongside these characters so much that you can really see how smooth the interactions are between the voice actors and therefore between the characters when you're watching.
Yeah, the dialogue, even when people are saying things that seem silly or would be goofy in another setting, because the voice actors have been working together for so long and react to one another so naturally, I feel like that stuff comes across really well. Like, the dialogue all works, even when it has no business working.
It does, which is, a huge shout out to those actors.
It's a very impressive feat. So, yeah. And I know that you don't pay as much attention to voice acting in movies as I do, but...
I'm starting to now, but mostly that's your corruptive influence on me. So,
sorry. You're going to osmotically get a lot of voice acting knowledge just from the amount of geeking out I do over voice actors and things.
That's okay. You're starting to accumulate science knowledge for the same reason, so I think we'll be okay.
Some of it's kind of sloughing off, but I'm trying to pick up as much as I can. I don't have the head for science that you do.
Ew.
Okay. I wasn't trying to be gross with that. I was thinking like
that was a really gross mental image.
I was thinking for like
I'm molting scientific knowledge and you're just sitting there picking up the pieces. Yeah, exactly. That's the mental image I had.
My mental image was like a duck and you dump water on him and most of the water just beads off of him and goes back into the lake. But, duck's a little bit wet now. And I'm wet with science. You know what? Let's move on. God.
I'm going to put that on a t-shirt.
I'm wet with science? Please don't put that on a t-shirt. That sounds like the poor Neil deGrasse Tyson watches. God in heaven. I have completely lost the plot. How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Voice acting.
The acting is really good.
You're a huge voice acting nerd.
And, okay, from a writing standpoint, how did you... Okay, one of my beefs with How to Train Your Dragon 2 was I didn't feel like we got very much villain development at all.
We did not, and that was actually very unusual. The main villain, whose name escapes me...
Drago Bloodfist.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I actually am glad I did that because that was a very epic retelling of his name.
Thank you.
Drago is not developed very much. He just kind of pops on the scene and is evil because he's big and scary and scarred and wears dark clothes and, is violent towards dragons.
Yeah, we get the basic, dragons destroyed my family when I was young and now I must dominate them with force, whereas you train them with compassion. Like, I knew that was going to be his character, but I was really hoping for a little bit more of who he was and where he came from. And I'm guessing he's still going to be the villain in the third film, but, I wish we didn't have to wait for the third film to get more info on him.
I agree, and it's very interesting because I know the creators were talking about how Drago was supposed to be kind of the road not taken with Hiccup, because they had a very similar past. It's, a family member was killed by dragons, and they were injured by dragons as children.
As children, yeah.
And Hiccup, took that and turned it into kindness and compassion and genuine curiosity about these creatures, whereas Drago took it the other direction and wanted to dominate them and control them.
Yeah, he wears a cloak made of dragon skin, and he intimidates and terrifies dragons until they recognize him as their alpha. And that's how he rules. All of the people under his command are, forced into service. All the dragons that he possesses are just cowed and terrified into doing his bidding. And that's really all we know about him.
Yeah, he doesn't get a lot of development beyond that. I was hoping for some sort of backstory beyond, when he was, trying to convince the other clan leaders of Berk to try and join him in this huge, dragon army or whatever that he was trying to do. And that's quite literally all we got.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a little... And, I'm going to apologize in advance because I absolutely love the movie, but there's, 2 or 3 things that really bugged me about it, and I feel like they bear discussing.
Fire away.
But it doesn't come from a place of hating the movie, not at all, because I thought it was... I think it's one of the best DreamWorks movies they've ever done.
I agree with that.
It's easily, top 3. The only DreamWorks movie I like more is Kung Fu Panda 2, actually.
That's because Kung Fu Panda 2 is an amazing movie.
It's glorious, yeah. And then I think the first Madagascar. And the first Madagascar I only like for sentimental reasons. It's got a really fun and unique animation style. I think the voice actors all really nailed it. But I also saw it in theaters in Russia with my family, and it was the first movie that we saw together in Russia, and we actually watched it a bunch because it helped us learn the language.
Oh, that's actually really neat.
Yeah, and so it became one of those movies that my family really loves because of the time in our lives when we watched it together. And
I've got a few movies like that with my own family.
Yeah,
so.
And I've started watching those with you, and it's been really fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, How to Train Your Dragon 2 is easily my top 3 DreamWorks best movies. Notice I didn't mention Shrek at all anywhere in the DreamWorks' best.
I do enjoy Shrek 1 and 2, but you're right. They don't hold a candle to the movies that you just mentioned.
I like Shrek 2, but I feel like the first one doesn't hold up as well. The soundtrack really takes me out of the movie because of all the contemporary music in it. It's like, don't...
Oh, see, that's part of why I enjoyed it so much.
I can appreciate it, but it's like, don't do Smash Mouth in your... This is not 1997. We don't need Smash Mouth anymore. We as a society have evolved beyond Smash Mouth.
It was also... I also enjoy movies that do that because, A Knight's Tale is another one that I enjoy that puts, relatively modern music into a setting that just does not fit.
Yeah, it was all Queen music, right?
The only
song I remember is We Will Rock You.
Yes.
Because I only saw it the one time.
We need to fix that.
We can watch A Knight's Tale again. It's going to be weird for me because I watched it, the same week that we watched Ever After, and so they've kind of blurred together in my head.
Oh, you poor thing.
So I'm pretty sure I'm imagining the female protagonist from Ever After as being the love interest in A Knight's Tale, and I'm pretty sure that's not how it went down.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
I don't think that's what happened, but I don't remember. I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Darn.
But okay, here are my issues with How to Train Your Dragon 2, and after that I'm gonna talk about the things that it absolutely nailed because it did some incredible things that I was very impressed by. I didn't like Drago not getting a lot of characterization. Because, to be an effective villain, you shouldn't just be a cipher. It works in some cases. Darth Vader is scarier because you don't know what the fuck his deal is, but then you find out what the fuck his deal is.
Right, and then he becomes not only a more sympathetic character, but also a more terrifying villain.
Yeah, he's a lot scarier when you realize that he's Luke's father, because then you're sympathetic towards him, like, how did he get into this position? But also you're like, holy crap, he's willing to kill his son if that's what it takes.
Right.
So I was a little disappointed in that. It bugged me a little bit that Volka, Hiccup's mom, she kind of gets shoved to the background after a certain point.
She does.
Yeah, and that's a common complaint in animated in movies in general for me. Like, you get a lead female character, and then she's really capable and fights a lot at the beginning of the film, and then at the final fight she gets knocked out, or she gets tied up, or she's incapacitated somehow, and the hero has to step up and save the love interest or the mom. Like,
I honestly think that movie could have used, like, an extra 150% more Volka and Astrid.
Yeah, Volka and Astrid were fantastic characters, and they really, like, Astrid's great. I don't have any issues with how she was written or portrayed at all, but more of her would have been better.
Right. So what there was of her was actually really, really well done, but there just should have been more.
Mm-hmm. And the same thing with Volka. She goes to square off with Drago Bloodfist in their little fight as the two alpha dragons are battling each other, and he pretty much knocks her aside, and her husband has to come in and fight Drago for a while. And I was just like, well, don't do that. She's been resisting him all this time for, at least 5-6 years. So why does she have to get knocked out so that Hiccup's dad can be the one that fights him? And I understand.
I believe it's closer to 20 years because she left when Hiccup was a baby.
Well, she did, but I'm trying to put a little gap in there for when she actually started training dragons and learning how to live among them, because I feel like he was a later addition to that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's an official timeline, but I'm not going to go look it up right now.
Fair enough.
But, I could have done with more Volka. And I don't know if she had to be moved to the background because of the spoilery things that we're going to mention here in a second, and they wanted to emphasize why that's important, or if they just didn't know what to do with her because they changed the direction for that character during the development process. Like, I've heard that for a while she was going to be the villain.
That's the vibe I got from watching the movie, is that her character development was originally going to go in a different direction, and then they suddenly didn't, and then they had to just put her in more scenes as a result.
Yeah. I think that's the vibe I get too. I think that's what ended up happening there. The only other issue I had with the film is an issue I have with, every movie I see. And whenever I mention it, people start to bitch at me about it because I'm making an issue out of nothing, which is untrue. But it's the thing about, literally every single character in How to Train Your Dragon 2. And in the first one, it's all white people. It's all just blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryan Vikings. And I'm exaggerating with the Aryan description because there's a lot of black hair and there's a lot of brown and blue eyes and stuff, but still.
Full of white people.
Full of white people. It's 100% white people, and it's balanced out by dragons. Sure, I love dragons, but it really...
Yeah, when the dragons have more diversity than the actual cast, there's something going on there.
Absolutely there is. And somebody was like, yeah, well, they were Vikings, so it was historically inaccurate for there to have been anything but white people there. And that's not true. I can actually provide, I don't know what I found, 4 or 5 links for people who were originally African, or the Moors, or people from Egypt. And, there were black people in history in the time of the Vikings. And
right, and not only that, but I mean, if we're going with, it wasn't realistic to have, anybody other than white people in our Viking story that involves dragons.
Yeah.
I think we're having the wrong discussion here.
Yeah.
And also, just from, a logic standpoint, they live in a fucking archipelago. Mm-hmm. It's just a cluster of islands out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And the odds of there being only one type of, ethnicity of any kind in this area is, the odds of that are slim to none.
Yeah. And, even in dragon mythology, when we're not thinking of European dragons, we think of the Eastern-style dragons that are, serpent-like, and they have the whiskers. The generic, the cliche Chinese dragon.
Mm-hmm. I would have loved to see some Chinese dragon styles in there.
I'm willing to bet they'll have those in a third film if they bother involving anybody who isn't white. If they bring non-white characters into the franchise, what I'm hoping they would do is have them look more like dragons from their country's folklore.
We can only hope.
Yeah. So that was my other beef with the film. It's a beef I have with a lot of movies. There's representation is shitty. And first of all, it is realistic for there to have been people that weren't white in the movie with the Vikings. Secondly, even if it weren't realistic, then there would also be no dragons. The only thing that would have happened in the movie was Hiccup discovered some weird dinosaur bones and he didn't recognize them and he moves on with his life and the movie is over. That's the realistic How to Train Your Dragon. So I don't think we
that
want
would
that
have been
anyway.
like a 5-minute Pixar short or something.
Yeah, it would have been somebody's like short movie they put on their film reel as they try to get a job at Pixar or DreamWorks.
Right.
Yeah.
Although if Pixar had turned that into a short film, I guarantee you we probably would have been able to cry within those 10 minutes.
Yeah, Pixar would have broken all of our hearts with it. It would have been a nightmare.
They're really good at that. It's kind of uncomfortable.
They're terrifying. I don't know what they've done to us that's conditioned us to cry when we're supposed to and laugh when we're supposed to and pay millions of dollars for all their movies except the Cars franchise, but they've really got it down.
I feel like they're trying to rule the world.
You know what? I think I'm okay with a world ruled by Pixar, because at least everyone's going to have good backstories and we'll all look really good.
That's true.
I'm okay with being a Pixar character.
Yeah. But we are not talking about Pixar.
It's true. How to Train Your Dragons was obviously made by Studio Ghibli.
What?
Oh, wait. No, DreamWorks, right?
Yes, DreamWorks. Your Google foo is a little lacking today.
Well, I just assumed that all animated movies were made by either Disney or Studio Ghibli. I didn't know there were more movie studios than that.
You've only seen 2 Studio Ghibli movies.
That's true, actually. I've only seen Ponyo and Spirited Away.
Which is just bizarre. Well, of course, I've only seen 2 movies either, but they're also different movies.
Yeah, we've each seen the movies the other person hasn't in the Studio Ghibli canon, which is highly amusing to me.
It is.
And so, the things that I loved about How to Train Your Dragon 2 are... And this is just... the reason I thought of it was because of watching Rio 2, actually.
Really?
Yeah. There are 3 things that... maybe it was just 2 things. I'll remember how many things there were when I mention them. There's a few things that happen in sequels, especially animated sequels, that always piss me off. They always seem to happen, and they did not happen in How to Train Your Dragon, but they absolutely happened in Rio.
Like what?
Well, all right. The first thing I hate is when you get to the sequel, and everything the protagonist did in the first movie is ignored. Like, he proves himself to his...
that.
Like in Rio, he proves to the wild animals that he, just because he's a pet doesn't mean he can't fend for himself and isn't worth anything. Like, he proves that he can fly, he proves that he can protect himself in a fight, he proves that he's, full of ingenuity. I can't think of the word. It's not ingenuous. But
creative?
Creative. He's a creative guy.
Resourceful?
Resourceful. Thank you. He's resourceful, he's good at protecting himself. And then in the second movie, everyone is just kind of like, oh, it's Blue, and he's a goofball, and he can't take care of himself in the wild, even though we saw that he could in the first movie.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, that backpedaling I hate. And so the fact that we didn't have a How to Train Your Dragon 2 that was still about Hiccup trying to prove himself and trying to prove that dragons and humans can work together made me really happy. I was terrified they were going to go that route. And I guess that's probably what the TV series covered too, but they didn't do it in the movie, and that made me very happy.
I appreciate that too, and it's something I was only vaguely aware of appreciating until you put words to it, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad I could, because that's a thing about animated sequels that has bugged me since I was very little. And when I finally realized what it was that was happening that I hated, I was able to pay attention to it and realize how often it happens.
I should go back and watch a lot of the sequels that I hated and see how many of them are for that reason.
I bet you quite a few of them are because of that, actually. The other thing I hate happens in a lot of sequels, and it's not even just cartoon sequels. It's when there's an established romantic relationship in the first movie, like, the protagonist and his love interest get together. And then in the second movie, here comes a big, impressive macho person who's not a goof like the main character, and so, oh no, is their relationship going to be threatened by this new person? And it's like, don't do that. You let the hero and the love interest get together, so let them be together. Develop that relationship, and don't throw this character in to give the audience a fake fear that the main character is going to lose their love interest.
I hate that.
It's so pointless. This needless, competition or whatever that it turns into, because then you get the main character acting all possessive and weird, and they go out and do something reckless to try and prove to their love interest that they still deserve them. It's really
it turns
dumb.
into that whole love triangle bullshit, which makes me want to punch kittens, and it's just not good.
And I'm tired of buying kittens just for you to punch their faces in, and then I have to take them back to the Humane Society and explain that they fell down the stairs.
Right. Plus you don't have a car, so, making that trip on the bus with a battered kitten has got to be a little irritating.
Yeah, and people are starting to look at me weird, and I can't keep saying, oh, cat fell down the stairs, because nobody buys that. I don't buy it, and I had to make it up just to... I don't like this joke about cat domestic abuse. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was wondering how far you were going to take that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I hadn't. That was awful.
It was. I just went with it.
Yeah, I appreciate the improvisational skills. Like, it's that whole yes and thing they teach you in improv class where you just keep it going. You don't say, no, let's do this. Like, I appreciate that you're willing to play with that. Even when it gets stupid, and I'm sorry, I had to end that one early.
That's okay.
But I really hate when movies do that, because it's like, no, you let the protagonist develop as a character, you let the protagonist prove themselves, you let the protagonist find emotional fulfillment in this other person and companionship. Don't erase all of their hard work and call into question whether or not they still have a relationship with someone that they love. Like, let them just be an established couple. And because otherwise you have, like in Rio 2, the Blue's girlfriend, Jewel, doesn't really defend Rio when she meets her long-lost dad and her long-lost love interest from when she was a little baby bird. And it's like, well, it's really out of character for her not to stand up for him. And so it makes all the characters... I'm sorry.
And what it is lazy writing.
It's very lazy.
They have no other way to introduce conflict or another subplot into this storyline. And so what they do is they'll just, let's introduce, previous love interests. We'll bring back the old flame or whatever.
Rio 2 had too many conflicts going on in the first place. You had the villain from the first one coming back, trying to kill the heroes. You had a new villain who's a human trying to destroy the rainforest. You had Rio and Jewel and their kids going to the Amazon to find all the missing Spix's macaws that turns out they're not extinct after all. You had a brief moment where their habitat was being taken over by a rival flock of parrots. You had the inexplicable subplot of the sidekicks trying to have a talent show in the Amazon, because that's a thing for some reason. You had the human characters trying to find Blue and his girlfriend and stop the evil land developer human villain. Like, it's a very messy movie with way too much going on. And How to Train Your Dragon 2 had a really streamlined plot that, everything happened in very logical steps, and it all happened at a pace that felt appropriate.
And it only had, only two main subplots that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, it had, there's trying to stop Drago, Hiccup and his mom, and then Hiccup's mother and father. And then it had...
three then.
Yeah. The only other...
Because there's the whole Hiccup and his obligations to the tribe.
Yeah, to become the Viking chief. Mm-hmm. And those eventually tie into everything else. Like, that storyline, it flows together in what feels like a natural progression.
It does.
It doesn't feel like 3 or 4 separate things happening at once. It feels like this is a normal person's life where there's multiple things going on at the same time, and they're resolving themselves in a natural way.
Exactly.
So, the things that Rio 2 got wrong were things that How to Train Your Dragon 2 did perfectly. And then the thing that How to Train Your Dragon 2 got wrong, the whole, only white people thing, Rio 2 did perfectly. Because it all takes place in Brazil and in, Portugal. And so there's only one white character in the entire film.
Oh, that must be nice.
Yeah, every other human you see is Portuguese or Brazilian or just, brown. And it's really nice to see that. And the only person in the film that's white is Blue's original owner, Linda, or whatever the hell her name is. And it's only because she married the bird guy that's, studying birds in the Amazon, and so she's with him in the sequel. So it's like, How to Train Your Dragon 2 doesn't go back on what Hiccup has earned. It doesn't threaten the relationship he has with his girlfriend Astrid, which, by the way, holy shit, super cute.
Oh my god,
just fucking adorable. They're so cute together. I love their relationship.
They're precious. Yeah. And even Stoic is just like, that's my future daughter-in-law. Yeah. And it's just the cutest line ever.
It's adorable. It was really nice to see Hiccup's issues with his dad were resolved. And Hiccup's dad goes so far as, just not knowing how to handle his son, to being like, that's my son and I'm so proud of him and he's going to be our new chief someday and I'm so happy for that. Like, that development felt wonderful. It was so natural and it made me really happy to see.
Agreed.
So what How to Train Your Dragon did right, it did phenomenally. It knocked it out of the park. And the issues I have with it, I'm always going to have with it, but they don't take away from the overall experience of, this is a very good movie.
I agree.
Yeah. So that was... I'm sorry.
No, nothing.
Oh, I heard you take a breath like that was an I'm going to speak now breath.
No, that wasn't a breath. That was me putting something down.
Ah, okay. No, How to Train Your Dragon 2 is fantastic. I think we give it, I don't know, how many thumbs do we have between us?
I have 2. I don't know how many you have.
Well, I've got a bunch in that jar, and I haven't counted, so...
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I think you're somewhere in the 30s in there.
So, you was like 37 thumbs up?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
That sounds appropriate.
Yeah, cool.
So 37 thumbs up for
How to
the
Train Your
How to
Dragon
Train
2.
Your Dragon 2.
Yeah. No, I loved it, actually. And
is it one of those thumbs, one of Xander's thumbs?
Maybe. Oh, you know what? Actually, I think it is. We had that whole thing with your pinking shears when you...
Oh, right.
Yeah. Oh.
I had to sharpen them on something.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I didn't like the fact that I came home and that's what you guys were doing with your pinking shears. Like, that was a little unsettling. But, I mean, you guys gotta do you, so whatever. And, I'm just glad that thumbs grow back, so Xander can still edit the pod... Oh, fuck, who's gonna edit the podcast if he's dead?
Oh, I'll do it.
Really?
I mean, well, yeah, I can just, summon something to help. I don't know.
I'm sure you don't have, like, a robotic algorithm on your computer that can just stitch all our audio together somehow?
Well, I used to, but he became fully self-aware and ran away with some, other AI.
Oh, that's what happened. That's when my calculator doesn't work.
Yeah. They actually, they actually live in Tibet right now.
That doesn't seem like a very computer program friendly place.
Normally I would say it's not, but they seem really happy there, so I haven't really tried bothering them with anything.
Well, and what I heard was that the whole Free Tibet thing was actually about making Tibet open source. So maybe it's more convenient for computer programs than it used to be.
I don't know. I didn't actually ask because as soon as my AI ran away, they cut off all contact with me and won't even respond to my emails anymore. It's actually kind of annoying.
I'm sorry. That must really suck. I hate, honestly, I've had that happen before with sentient computer programs, and it really sucks.
It's very frustrating because, it wouldn't be so bad, but, when he ran away, he also had a couple of ebooks stored on his hard drive that I just... And I don't really want to pirate those because they're good books and I want to support the authors.
Yeah, so. It's weird that we live in a time where we can pirate books, actually, now that I think about it.
It is a little strange to think about that, but yes.
Yeah, and, I know that he left you that note, but all he said was, end of line, and then he left. Yeah.
He did, and it was on some sort of, black and blue glowy, I don't even know what it was.
That table in the living room that, lights up with words and some famous British actor reads the dialogue or whatever.
Right. No, that happens... I've destroyed that thing 3 or 4 times, and it just keeps coming back.
That's so weird. There's got to be, physical backups it's restoring from that are hidden in strategic locations.
Right. And the last time I encountered it also had this weird, laser-looking thing that was jutting out from the wall. I'm not quite sure what that was about.
Yeah. That's actually a really good segue into our discussion of The Legend of Korra. I'm sorry, I was saving that. I'm sorry. I very specifically started the Tron theme discussion so that I could pull that joke on you.
We might have to cut out 5 minutes of laughter.
I'm sorry. Oh, you like that one? Okay. All right. Let's talk about Tron and Tron Legacy. As quick as this is getting close to an hour already, so we should probably try to be brief.
It is. And, of course, Tron came out in 1982.
1982.
And Tron Legacy came out in 2010. So we're a little late to the show here, but you just watched these recently.
Yeah.
Mostly because I kind of, I wrapped you in duct tape and forced your eyes open with toothpicks and made you sit down and watch them.
Yeah, it was very a Clockwork Orange style. It was actually kind of creepy.
Well, it goes with the whole, shadow lurking credit that I've got. I've also... Yeah, I have to have my medieval torture license as well for this job I'm trying to go for.
Well, I thought you were trying to do the whole accredited mad scientist thing, and it was all just kind of tied back into that. If I remember right.
I've actually already got my mad science accreditation.
Oh, well, cool! Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I got my mad science accreditation 10 years ago. I was 15 when that happened.
Okay. That was when I got my naive protagonist certification. Actually.
Oh, is that when that happened?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So anyway, it's you gotta get your credits and your experience where you can find them, and you're usually pretty accommodating with stuff like that. So
yeah, I try to help out. You're my best friend that's alive, so I want to help you out whenever I can.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I strapped you down to watch Tron and Tron Legacy back to back.
Yes, and my eyes still hurt a little bit actually. But it was weird for me because I've owned the Tron Legacy soundtrack since 2010 when the movie came out, and I have not seen the movie until now.
You know, I've had that happen. In fact, I think I still have a couple of soundtracks where I've never actually seen the movie they belong to.
Yeah, no, you've mentioned me, and of course I can't think of them right now, but I do remember they exist.
Mm-hmm. Well, things like a lot of John Williams soundtracks.
Yeah, because he's made just a crap load of movies.
He has.
It's like having Danny Elfman soundtracks. There's going to be like 9 movies in there you've never seen.
Right. Oh, there's an example. Is Danny Elfman's soundtrack to Black Beauty.
Oh, hey.
I've never actually seen Black Beauty.
I've never seen Black Beauty. You've also got Sleepy Hollow. Have you ever seen that?
I have seen Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, you haven't seen Witches of Eastwick, right?
I have not seen Witches of Eastwick, which has some absolutely stunning music.
Yeah. So Tron Legacy was a really pretty movie. The first one is gorgeous. The second one is super pretty. But I was very surprised that the plots were actually really good too.
They were the original Tron was basically created to explain how computers worked to the general movie-going public, and failed miserably. But it's still an excellent movie.
Yeah, I appreciated it from a fiction standpoint, but I don't really get an instructional vibe from it at all. Like, I feel like laymen in the that's how you pluralize that, right? It's just laymen?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like laymen in the 1980s were not going to be able to extrapolate from this movie how computers worked. I don't get the vibe that worked at all. It's like expecting the incredible Mr. Limpet to teach people about how sonar works.
Yeah, it's people came out of that movie just, with the idea that all the programs inside your computer, fight each other to the death, and then whichever one wins gets to work. Like, it doesn't actually work that way.
Yeah, I think only Ubuntu does that, right?
Ubuntu and, depending on the install of Linux, sometimes you'll get it with that.
Okay, yeah, because
basically anything that's open source, because, it's just chaos in there. There's no order or rules to it.
I like how often we compare open source technology to, like, these unregulated savages. Like, just because we've both been at Apple so long, we're like, no, we have to have it regulated and controlled.
We are definitely drinkers of the Apple Kool-Aid, and I'm okay with that.
You're gonna have to do the. I'm not gonna mention it on the podcast, or we'll have to spend 20 minutes on it. You're gonna have to tell your Kool-Aid story at some point.
I will.
Yeah, that's gonna be. I guess that's a teaser now. When Xander listens to this and he stops being dead, he's gonna ask about that, and we'll have to tell him on a podcast.
Yes, it's an excellent story, and it's a very interesting insight into how utterly insane my family is.
Yeah, we both have just batshit insane families, but in totally opposite directions. And I'm very amused by that. And this does not have anything to do with Tron.
It does not. But anyway, Tron, beautiful movie, beautiful soundtrack, and an absolutely very... I'm going to speak specifically to Tron Legacy, because at this point in 2014, if anybody has not seen Tron yet, that was made in 1982, the odds that they will suddenly decide to watch Tron because of this podcast are pretty slim.
Maybe.
I have a feeling most of our listeners have either already seen it or just have no interest in it whatsoever.
I think all of our listeners have probably built Tron costumes at this point because that's how nerdy our audience is.
Yeah, maybe that sounds about right.
Maybe they'll be browbeaten into their roommates to watch it.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I will attempt to post my my directions for just roommate incarceration.
Yeah,
for
how to coerce your roommate
of movie watching.
Yeah, you put that on Instructables, right?
I wanted to, but then Instructables revoked my membership for it, and so I've got to find another way to sneak it on.
Yeah, something about imprisonment really doesn't sit right with them for whatever reason.
Yeah, they'll get over it.
Yeah, people are prudes. But yeah, Tron. Sorry, go for it. Tron Legacy.
So one of the things I enjoyed most about the transition from Tron to Tron Legacy was the general aesthetic. They managed to keep the world building, just the visual concepts and the tools and the mechanics of this world almost completely identical to the original 1982 movie. It was like it was like you were watching the same environment but in HD.
Mm-hmm.
It's, the world was a lot more detailed, and it was beautiful and gorgeous, and it had all these glass and clean lines and stuff like that, which you didn't get in the original movie, but it was still very tangibly recognizable as the world of Tron.
Yeah, it was one of those where it didn't feel like, oh, now they have a big budget so they can make everything bigger and shinier. It felt like now they have the technology to represent what they've always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And that's a very fine distinction.
Which actually kind of fits into the idea of Tron, where, the original one was in 1982, and, Kevin Flynn gets pulled into the grid, and he's interacting with computer programs in 1982, which, let's face it, those programs weren't exactly the most robust.
Yeah, it wasn't like he could have jumped into World of Warcraft or something. It was pretty much all going to be very basic programs and calculators and little cartoony guys like Bit who just kind of say yes and no because that's all they can do.
Exactly. And then moving forward to Tron Legacy, where the grid is a self-contained computer realm. It's not actually networked to anything else outside of that basement in Flynn's arcade. But from what you gather during the course of this grand story is that it's been self-maintaining and it's been growing and evolving and learning this entire time. And so I feel like it's the exact same world. It's just gotten bigger and better on its own. And I feel like that fits absolutely perfectly with the cinematography that was used.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like nothing in the movie feels out of place. It doesn't feel like they overdid it on the way the movie works, on the way the movie looks. Like it just feels like a natural progression of technology, which actually is perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, CGI got better, so Tron looks better.
Exactly. And I feel like that was very, there's no way they could have anticipated that. But that's how it just kind of fell into place, and it makes the entire setup just that much more realistic.
Yeah, which is an odd thing to say for a movie like Tron that's set entirely in a world of self-aware computer programs, but actually it does feel like a realistic progression.
It does.
I really liked both of the movies, actually.
I'm glad you did, because they were, the stories in those movies are just really interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And, fairly predictable on some level, but at the same time, it's that same movie that everybody loves to watch, that same story that everybody likes to listen to over and over and over again is just, you've got that lone hero who finds an unlikely band of allies and manages to save the world.
And that's a fun story. I mean, the reason we have that story, and I'm never going to remember what it is, but it's that guy who classified all the major story types, and he coined the term hero's journey. Right. And it's that kind of thing. It's a hero's journey story. And I don't know, I might have to look up the classifications later. But it works really well. It's a classic story being told in a new setting, in a new way, and that's what makes it work. Plus it has Jeff Bridges, which just makes every movie automatically 150% better. Jeff Bridges must just be scientifically the chillest dude in the universe.
I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah. I've done measurements and stuff on things like that. And as far as chill characters played by chill actors, it's on one end of the spectrum you've got Jeff Bridges, and on the other end of the spectrum you've got Nicolas Cage and Mel Gibson.
Okay. I don't know if I would love or despise a Tron movie with Nicolas Cage. Imagine Nicolas Cage as Flynn.
I don't know how I would feel about that.
It's on the grid, a shark or something.
I've never actually mentioned it on the podcast, but I do really have a love of Nicolas Cage's acting.
It's true.
In very specific films.
You've got that Con Air poster that's directly over your bed, right? I've seen that, and it's very unsettling.
It's a big Nicolas Cage face, and sometimes you just have to have that.
I feel like I never want that.
But no, films say, for example, The Wicker Man. I hate that movie.
Oh, yeah.
I despise that movie with every last fiber of my being.
But it's so gloriously quotable.
Exactly. And then you get things like, Kick-Ass, or
Sorcerer's Apprentice.
National Treasure. Or Sorcerer's Apprentice, very, very excellent movies where Nicolas Cage gets to play a character with just the right amount of crazy that he manages to nail it.
Yeah.
It's when he's trying to play a character that's supposed to be normal and even-tempered and very, very approachable and very, what's the word?
Down to earth?
Associable? That's not a word.
No, it's not. But I think, relatable, or?
There you go. Okay. That's the word.
Yeah, no, okay. It's like Nicolas Cage thinks he can do what Jim Carrey can actually do.
That is a very good way of putting it.
Yeah. Because, you get Jim Carrey in The Truman Show, where he's a totally normal guy. He's kind of goofy and kind of silly, but He's very restrained for Jim Carrey. He's a very calm, very meek, very down-to-earth person who discovers that the world around him is insane. And when he starts acting like, typical Jim Carrey role in The Truman Show, it's intentional on the part of this character because he's trying to shake up the world that he lives in. He's trying to elicit a change and a reveal from the people he suspects are controlling his life. Like, he's intentionally being crazy and weird.
That sounds like just my day-to-day existence.
I've watched you do that. It's a little creepy. No, I love Truman Show.
I've never seen it.
I think you should. I think you'd really like it. I would love to watch it with you. You have to ignore...
I really adore Jim Carrey movies, so I probably would like it. I just never had the opportunity to see it.
It's actually on Netflix Instant. I will gladly watch it with you. Like, maybe when we're done with work tomorrow, we can watch Truman Show.
I like this plan.
But yeah, it's really funny because Truman... Okay, everyone knows this by now, I'm sure. But The Truman Show is a reality show in which the only person who doesn't know that everything around them is fake is Truman. He was born on camera. And he has spent his entire 40 years or whatever it is of life not knowing he's a character on a TV show about him. And so, like, Truman's wife will pause and look at the camera as she's telling Truman about the stuff she bought, because that's how they do product placement. Like, she's like, oh, did you see these Cutco knives I got? They're great. They do this, this, and this, and they're actually really expensive. I got them at this store for this price. And Truman doesn't realize that she's basically doing commercials.
That's extremely bizarre and highly unsettling.
It's actually pretty funny when you see it happen. There are some things that are like, okay, this is actually really fucked up if I think about it for more than 2 seconds. But other than that, Truman Show's a very good movie.
I will have to watch it.
And incidentally, so is Tron Legacy, which we have departed from twice now.
We are not very good at staying on topic today. We need Xander.
We don't have a lot of RAM is the problem, and so we're just losing Tron Legacy amidst all the other processes we're running in our heads.
That's because he died in the first Tron.
Oh, that's right, he did. And he fought for the users. Oh, Ram died. Oh, Ram was oh, I get what you're doing. I'm sorry, I totally lost it. I thought you were saying Tron died, which didn't even actually happen in the first movie.
It didn't.
God, I'm sorry. I totally missed the terrible pun / reference to the movie.
That's okay. I'll just,
You'll get another
sneak
one.
Some sort of horrifying thing into your room later.
Oh, is okay. I'm gonna have to keep my door locked.
Yep. That probably won't stop me, but if it makes you feel better.
You are a singularly terrifying woman. I hope you know this.
Oh, thank you.
So Tron Legacy was a really good movie. The soundtrack is Daft Punk's best work. Jeff Bridges is a fantastic actor who lends an air of gravitas and irreverence to every role that he plays, and the special effects are phenomenal, both for the original film and its contemporary follow-up.
I was waiting for you to take a breath there.
No, I can go for a long time without taking a breath, actually. Especially when I'm really good at run-on sentences.
I've noticed that.
That's the entire podcast, is run-on sentences interrupted by you or Xander.
Basically, yes. That is a very accurate description of Shallowcast.
Well, hell, I invented it. I get to do whatever I want with it.
Sure, just take all the credit. Oh, wait, no, you actually deserve that credit. Never mind.
Well, I don't take all the credit. I mean, Xander edits the podcast. You provide massive amounts of scientific know-how and movie trivia. I just try to rein... I'm the Kermit of Shallowcast. I just try to rein everybody in, keep the show under a certain amount of time, and provide some semblance of structure in which we can indulge our nonsense.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm Kermit in Shallowcast and Miss Piggy everywhere else in my life.
Yeah, actually, that is a very accurate description, and I will refer to you as Kermit or Miss Piggy, depending on your role from here on out.
I'm totally fine with that. Do I need to dress accordingly?
Yes.
Okay, all right. You're going to have to make me a lot of outfits then.
I know, and we'll have to get you a blonde wig.
Oh, no, I lost it when I moved. Never mind.
Oh.
Man. But yeah, no, sequels in general are a tricky thing to do. It's easy to do a sequel for something like Godzilla or something like Doctor Who, because these are characters who are designed to exist in any situation at any time.
Right.
You can do... okay, I know there's rules behind the regenerations, but Doctor Who as a character, you can take any actor and say, this is the Doctor, and he's in this universe, and this is his adventure this time. And
that's literally the whole point of having the Doctor be who he is you can just recycle actors through there as many times as you need in order for the plot to advance and for the show to continue.
And you don't have to try and establish a set timeline, because he can be having this adventure at the exact same chronological time he is also having this separate adventure because of the time travel element of the show. Like, it's a very brilliant concept for a show. That's one thing I've always admired about Doctor Who, is it's brilliant.
I'm actually kind of upset I didn't come up with it.
I'm sorry. I
didn't exist at the time it started, so meh.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant come up with the analogy.
Oh, no, just the actual.
Well, maybe there's like a grandfather paradox thing happening where the existence of Doctor Who is going to make you go back in time to witness its creation, and you're going to yell at some writer at the BBC and unknowingly give them the idea for Doctor Who.
You know, I choose to believe that that's going to be the case.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Or that was the case.
Well, like, once you decide to build a time machine, then your future self shows up with the time machine that you eventually build, and then you can use it.
That's true.
Yeah.
I just haven't found that spot yet.
No, you'll find it. Like, we've got bus passes. We'll go around town. We'll pick it up. We'll find your time machine.
All right.
But it's the same thing with Godzilla movies. Godzilla as a character doesn't have to have an established timeline from, 1956, 1954, these things happened to Godzilla. And in 2010, this thing happened to Godzilla. You can have the Godzilla character in a movie, and that's the only, canon can say that that's the only time Godzilla's ever existed. Like in Godzilla 2014, we don't have the previous history of all these other kaiju fights he's been in and all these other adventures Godzilla's had. This is the only Godzilla in that universe.
Right, and he hasn't been seen since, 1954.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And actually, the way that you view Tron Legacy being just, this phenomenal follow-up to a classic franchise, it's kind of the same thing I felt with the 2014 Godzilla movie, where you're just taking something and as a natural progression of technology and story writing and the character's development, you make this other story with those characters in that world, and it works just as well. And it doesn't overshadow what's been done in the past. It complements it perfectly.
It does.
Yeah. So Godzilla and Tron Legacy, surprisingly, are two really good examples of sequels that, and How to Train Your Dragon 2, are sequels that take the world their predecessors developed and they expand upon it in ways that feel, natural and genuine, and they just flow perfectly. And I love that about them.
Which I think is just the mark of a good sequel in general.
Mm-hmm.
A sequel shouldn't be a rehashing of the first story with, an extra comic relief character.
Yeah, or a new love interest for somebody that didn't have one in the first movie.
Right. A sequel should be a way for you to expand on the world that's already been created, mm-hmm. to dive deeper into the development of characters that you've already developed, and to explore new avenues that you may have hinted at in the first one, mm-hmm. but just never got the chance to explore.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people do is they take those and they say, oh, well, we need to expand our world, so
let's make something new up.
We're just going to make up something entirely new. Or, we need to develop these characters, so we're just going to put them in a, really easy, lazy situation and just have them react to it.
Yeah, we're just going to rehash the first movie, but they'll be in Africa this time, which is kind of the Madagascar 2 problem.
Right, exactly. And so, in that regard, I think all of these sequels that we've discussed are very, very well done sequels, mm-hmm. and they are what sequels were originally intended to be.
Yeah, they're what sequels are supposed to bring to the table. Is, you take the storytelling elements from the first film, you take the characters from the first film, and you expand upon those. You don't set them aside and throw a bunch of new things into the plot unless that makes sense. And when they do that in How to Train Your Dragon 2, it makes sense, because now that they can fly, they can actually explore beyond their archipelago and go to new places. They can actually map the world the way that Hiccup has started doing. And that's a normal and natural feeling way for that to happen. As opposed to kind of like in Shrek 2, where it's like, oh, by the way, there's this entire other kingdom that nobody's ever seen and is only a few days' journey away from your swamp. And we never mentioned it ever before for some reason. Yeah. So some sequels do that really well. Some sequels don't quite pull it off. Rio 2 is one of those that fails in every area but one or two areas, which it's actually a rare misstep for Blue Sky. They're the guys that did the Ice Age franchise and they've done some other really good CGI movies. And so Rio 2 was like a rare misstep for them, because I like the first movie a lot. And There's a character in the second movie I really love, but other than that, it was not very good, and it wasn't really worth watching.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to watch the first Rio now, just because I've been hearing you talk about it, but
it's pretty cute.
Not terribly high on my priority list at the moment.
Yeah,
you still need to watch Ladyhawke.
Yeah, apparently I have to watch Ladyhawke. This is like we spent after we recorded the Godzilla review, Xander and Hannah both kind of yelled at me about Ladyhawke, like off camera. We kept talking on Skype for a while, and everyone said I have to watch Ladyhawke. And then on Facebook today, my friend Trevor, who's talked to us about the show before, is like, okay, you have to watch Ladyhawke. And we actually are supposed to get Trevor on the show at some point.
Oh dear.
Specifically, Xander wants to yell at Trevor for how much he likes the Speed Racer movie that the Wachowskis made.
Ugh.
And I've never seen it, so I have to watch it for that.
I've never seen it either, but the trailers looked bad enough. Well, actually, I should say that the trailers for Pacific Rim also looked kind of awful, and I really enjoyed Pacific Rim. So,
I
will enjoy Speed Racer.
I only saw a couple Pacific Rim trailers because I wanted to go into the movie just completely fresh and with no knowledge whatsoever of the film or what was going to happen in it.
The trailers literally made it look like just Rock'em Sock'em Robots with really good graphics.
No, they made that movie and it had Hugh Jackman in it, right? That was Real Steel?
Oh God, that's right.
Yeah, I never saw that, but wasn't that what it was? Like, Hugh Jackman literally built a robot to box other robots or something?
That's right. I never did watch that one. But no, there was a time, because those came out, or the trailers for those were running at the same time.
Oh God.
And if you went to a movie and you started watching one of these trailers, there was a brief moment where you couldn't tell if it was a trailer for Pacific Rim or for Real Steel.
That's terrifying. That's like, when DreamWorks did Ants at the same time Pixar did A Bug's Life.
Oh, I remember that.
Or Finding Nemo versus Shark Tale. And actually, Pixar had to cancel it, and this actually makes me mad. Pixar canceled an entire project because Rio came out and the plot was too similar.
Oh, boo.
Pixar had a movie that was going to be called Newt, and it was about a rare blue-footed newt who thinks he's the last of his kind, and then a bunch of zoologists discover that there's a female of his kind, and so they try to get him together to save the species. And that's the plot of Rio. And so Pixar was like, well, I guess we can't make this movie because DreamWorks is doing theirs first. Blue Sky is doing theirs first. And that makes me sad because Pixar would have made a phenomenal movie.
They would have. Probably would have had, more white people in it, though.
Probably. It would have had John Ratzenberger because he's in every Pixar movie ever.
That's true. And that is the sound of my cat, who I believe says it's time to be done with the podcast.
Yeah, it's about your bedtime, because it's actually past your bedtime, and I have to get to bed early today because I start my new job tomorrow.
That's true. So I'm gonna go home, and do you think we should get the janitor to clean up the blood in here?
Okay. What do you do with blood? I know that for stains you're supposed to dab and not blot, and I don't know what that means. And, is it club soda that gets out blood, or is it, engine oil that gets out blood?
Every time I get blood on my carpet, I don't actually clean it. I just let it sit there, so that it can imbue my space with its powers. So I don't actually know what you use to remove blood.
See, I did the opposite thing, where I want to cleanse my domain of all the impurities that the death of those weaker than me bring. So I don't like to leave blood stains on stuff.
Well, then you should know better than I do.
Oh, I guess you're right. Okay. I've got my phone. I can, Google, and I'll figure out, I'll just... I'm sure it's not suspicious at all to be Googling how to clean up bloodstains.
No, that's fine. It's, nobody looks at that stuff.
I'm just glad I don't have to throw away, a whole Xander body. It's just the entire amount of blood that's in a human body, which means there's nothing to clean up. There's nothing extra to clean up anyway.
Yeah, so, blood...
Man.
I mean, if we had some of Xander's saliva, that would help, because your blood and your saliva are the same pH level, and so if you spill your blood on something, you can actually spit on it, and that will actually remove the blood a lot more cleanly.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not... Okay. Well, what's your blood type?
I have no idea.
Okay. What's my blood type?
9?
9. Okay. Do you think Xander's is probably it tastes like a 7. I think Xander's blood type is 7. And so mine is only 2 types more than his, so I can probably spit on this carpet a lot, and that'll make the blood go away forever, as you have promised me is a thing that will happen.
Yeah, go for it. It can't hurt.
That's true. A lot of just my DNA strewn around this place covered in blood is really going to solve this problem, I think.
You might want to drink some water.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to... Well, I can make liquid that's not saliva, so I got this covered. I can clean up this blood stain with everything my body secretes. Oh my god. No, I'm pretty sure that'll solve this problem. I mean, you just told me that's how pH things work.
I mentioned saliva specifically.
Oh, you did? Well, I'm pretty sure everything in my body has the same pH level.
It doesn't, but I will let you continue to think that, and then I will let you clean up this blood, because I gotta go home and go to sleep.
All right, so, I'll talk to you later. Let me... Hey, wait a second. Wait a minute. Xander's blood on the floor. Skulking in the corner. Hannah, did you kill Xander?
I'm gonna go lurk in a shadow now. Bye.
God, wait! Okay. Alright, Hannah is gone. I'm going to assume that Xander is dead forever and will never appear on the podcast again in any form. And that kind of sucks. So, thank you for listening to the death of Xander Grimm, which I guess is what we should call this episode. First episode of Shallowcast Season 2. Oh, sorry, second episode of Shallowcast Season 2 starts with Xander being dead. That's auspicious. Okay. I'm just gonna go. God damn it, you guys. Okay. Go home.
What? What? Who are you? Where am I? What? What the hell is this place? What?